Now, with all of that out the way, we're going to move on and get to the main event and give our final predictions for the 97th Academy Awards, which is going to go down this Sunday. It's been a wild and crazy award season.
Whew.
Even up until this very minute, right before this show, things are just constantly changing and morphing and moving. And it's been hard to predict how things are going to go, which, doesn't always tend to be the case. I think typically at this point, we kind of have a really, really good, solid idea in terms of what to expect out of Oscar night. But just due to the movies that we've gotten this past year, the movies that are in contention, some of the stories and the controversies that we've talked a lot about on this podcast, I would encourage people, if you've not done so, just go back and revisit all of our conversations in terms of our reactions to many of these precursor awards like the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards. And we're going to wrap up sort of the BAFTA and SAG award stuff in this conversation as well. Like, there's just so much to extrapolate from this conversation as we get into these predictions. But this is now the sixth year in a row that we'll be giving predictions for the Oscars as we cover Hollywood's biggest night. And I think I feel as unsure about this as I ever have, but we're going to do it, and we're going to get into it and give our final predictions today. Before we dive in, man, is there anything you want to say just about this journey of the past, I don't know what it's been, 6 or 7 weeks as we kick things off at the top of the year with the Golden Globes. And, we've just seen all these stories develop and take shape over the course of the past few weeks. And now that we are at this moment, on the precipice, on the eve of the Academy Awards, where do things stand with you right now in terms of just your thoughts, your hopes, your predictions, and how it's all going to shake out?
It's been a very unpredictable award season, but because of that, it has been fun and has almost interested me even more than in the past to figure out who's winning what, especially the ones that are non-televised. I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening? I got to pull it up. What's the update? Who won? What's going on? And then, of course, this past weekend, moving into the SAGs, I'm like, I got to watch. I don't know. It's not that I never wanted to watch before, but now it's like, I really don't know what's going to happen and I want to be there to see any surprises or something that I didn't see coming. So it's been just a crazy award season, whether it's controversy, whether it's confusion, or whether something wins. You're like, wow, how did that thing win? And now you got to figure out the next award show. Like, wow, that this voting isn't done. Is that going to affect how this award show body votes? And it's been really, I think, entertaining in that way because it hasn't been as predictable. But I'm looking forward to the Academy Awards itself. I think there's a lot of energy coming into this year. Also, when I look at the Best Picture nominees for this year, a lot of people have been like, oh man, these aren't that good of movies. I'm like, what? I think the versatility this year is crazy. I really do like the versatility in this year's awards. I think they're really, really good movies. I think they're really solid. And I think, I've said this before, they're all taking such big swings with a lot of the things that they're trying to say in the movies as well. There has been some interesting criticism over the years if that film is kind of like a dying art form. And I'm like, y'all be quiet. There's a lot going on in film right now. It's still very exciting. And I think this year is an example that says, hey, this thing can still be exciting. So, really excited to get into it. And I think this is going to be a fun Academy Awards.
Exciting is the word, and unpredictable has been the buzzword for sure. As stressful as it could be in terms of just having conversations about this and trying to pick, quote unquote, I can't deny that just the joy of not necessarily always knowing and being thrown off. It's a good thing. It can become very boring and redundant when we just see the same winners over and over. And I think even every award season, there's always at every precursor, there's something that happened where it's like, I didn't see that coming. Like there's always at least like one thing. But this year in particular, just because of everything that's gone down, there have been multiple things, multiple times over where it's just like a head scratcher. It's a what the fuck. It's like I could not have predicted that. I just didn't think it was going to go that way. And so things are very, very exciting. I don't know if that's going to translate to actual buzz and ratings and success for the Oscars. I don't think those two things are necessarily intertwined. I wouldn't conflate those, but I think for the hardcore fans, for people that do watch the Oscars, that do follow this stuff, it's been as exciting as it's been in at least 8 or 9 years, I would say. It's been a really, really unpredictable time, and it just continues to be that way after this past weekend as we lead into this weekend with the Academy Awards. But let's dive in and let's do predictions. We're going to go through all 23 categories and give our final predictions for who we think will win the Academy Award in that respective category this coming Sunday. Now, that's important to know that this is who we think will win, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily who we think should win.
Yep.
I'll point out and say, like, if you want to give a should win in these categories, feel free to do so. Like, if you have another movie or nominee that you think should win, feel free to rattle that off. But I just want people listening and watching to know that our final picks in all of these categories are the ones that we think will ultimately walk away with the trophies come this Sunday at the Academy Awards. So with that out of the way, let's get into it, man. Why don't you kick it off? We can go back and forth, and just
Yeah,
go
for
back
sure.
and forth and do that. But kick us off. Let's start at the bottom with
Mm-hmm.
Best Visual Effects. And the
Okay.
nominees in this category are Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. So who do you got winning Best Visual Effects?
I have Dune Part 2 currently winning Best Visual Effects. I will say Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a very impressive movie. When you think about how much CGI is in it and it really is crazy to look at. But man, Dune Part 2, it's been ignored so heavily this award season. I'm happy that I think it might get some stuff under the line, and I think this is definitely one of them. I think Dune Part 2 will take Best Visual Effects here.
I'm agreeing with you. Doom Part 2, I think that this is one of the few awards that it will win. Nobody can take away just the visual splendor of the Doom movies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Unfortunately, compared to the first movie, it is even less nominated than that movie was just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't foresee it walking away with necessarily a ton of awards in this particular telecast, even though it does have at least 4 nominations, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think that this will be one of the ones that it wins because the visual effects in that movie are just they're pretty insane. They did a really terrific job in Doom Part 2. So I think that they pretty much have this as somewhat of a shoe-in come this Sunday. Hope so, at least. Yes, for sure. Moving on to Best Costume Design. In this category, we have A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. So, Best Costume Design. I mean, first and foremost, what I will say, these are all really good nominees.
All fire costumes.
These are all great,
they all killed it.
Great list of nominees here, especially like these period pieces: Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, Fantasy World of Wicked, A Complete Unknown, another period piece. These are all just like great contenders. I'm picking Wicked in this category. I think I have criticisms of Wicked. Costumes is not one of them. That's one of the things that they did extraordinarily well. Paul Tazewell, man, he fucking cooked on those costumes at Wicked. Everything just looks really flamboyant and colorful and vibrant and luscious. Like, it was just a beautifully designed movie from a costume design standpoint. So I think that this is one of the ones that absolutely deserves come this Sunday.
No, absolutely. I'm there with you. Wicked is also my prediction for costume design. It just looks so good. And what's funny, you could pick any individual character and be like, wow, that is crazy. And of course, at the top of my mind is Glinda. Everything that Glinda had on was like, you are going nuts. Like, I don't know what's going on in that costume department, but y'all are really eating. But yeah, I also want to give some shout out to Gladiator 2 as well. I think that they did a really good job in the costumes of Gladiator. I did not expect the costumes in Gladiator to be that good, but I think they also killed it. But yeah, Wicked's definitely my pick.
Interesting turn of fate, too. I think that this was the sole nomination for Gladiator 2 this year at the Academy Awards, but you go back to the original film directed by Ridley Scott. If I'm not mistaken, that was nominated for like 10 Academy Awards that year, won 5. And, it's just interesting how quickly things can change, within the changing of a generation. Let's keep moving to Best Makeup and Hairstyling. In this category, we have A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. Who do you got for Best Makeup and Hairstyling?
I have The Substance here. It has pretty good kind of precursor feeling for The Substance. I think a lot of people are rallying behind The Substance as makeup. And to be honest, makeup does legit make or break that movie. You know what I mean? Like, without makeup, there is no The Substance. I will say as a close second, Wicked, for sure. Because kind of the same idea, right? Like, if Elphaba isn't believable, if some of the makeup in that movie isn't believable, it just doesn't work at all. And it does. But I think The Substance is taking it here.
I agree. I think The Substance is the clear winner, and I think the clear front runner in this category, which I totally agree with, and I'm not mad at all. What they have to do with Demi Moore's character in particular, and how it relates to the story is really incredible stuff. I will shout out Nosferatu. The creature design of that film, it's
Yeah.
top notch. What they have to do with Bill Skarsgård as the creature in that movie, it's quite striking. It's
It's
unlike
crazy.
it's unlike any Count Orlok that's been designed before, and
Mhm.
so I thought that they did a really phenomenal job with that stuff, especially like his flimsy balding hair. He looks really crazy when you see him in the light, but it's a really good film on that standpoint. But the substance, like just how it relates to the story as well, and how
Yeah.
that makeup and that hairstyling really ties in with just the themes of the movie in and of itself, it just adds a lot of just the artistic nature of what that particular craft does for that particular story. So I'm gonna go with that one as well. Let's move on to best cinematography. So in this category, we have The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu. This is one of the lone nominations for Maria, the Netflix movie
Mhm.
starring Angelina Jolie. So best cinematography, this is like one of my favorite categories. Like we
I
always
love it.
praise
Yeah.
movies and how they look and how they're shot. DPs are just incredible. And in actuality, this is somewhat of a tougher category, just considering some of the nominees here. Brutalist is an
Mhm.
incredibly shot movie. Dune Part 2. I mean, we talk about Greg Fraser all the time. Nosferatu and
Yep.
just what they do with the lighting even of that film is just
Mhm.
also pretty phenomenal. So it's not that easy across the board, but the one that I'm gonna go with, it's The Brutalist. I think The
Mhm.
Brutalist is going to walk away with best cinematography. Dune did win this award, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago. The original Dune did win this. Greg
Mhm.
Fraser did walk away with that Academy Award. I just think that this time it's just not going to be in contention in respect because like Dune Part 2 it's building on the foundation that was set with Dune 1 all those years ago. It's not necessarily doing anything new or different. Whereas The Brutalist, we haven't seen anything quite like that before on that type of story with a very small budget at that, shot for $10 million, and the
Mm.
way that it
Yeah.
looks and how epic it looks. I mean, you can stand it next to any movie, and I'm like, I dare you to say that this movie doesn't look as good as a $200 million blockbuster, and it does. And so I think for all of those reasons, The Brutalist is the deserving winner as well. I'm going to pick it as my will win and should win.
Yeah, I also have The Brutalist here. It's more. It's also one of those things where there's now again talks of if you've seen The Brutalist, there's all these iconic moments too in The Brutalist. There's the moment that's on the poster where you see kind of the sparks flying. That's of course an important moment, and everybody talks about the Statue of Liberty shot. Like there are legit shots in the film that people are talking about at the top of their mind when it comes to this movie as well. And I think that's also somewhat important. But man, this thing was also stacked. Again, we talked about Greg Fraser in Dune Part 2, but then Yarn Blanche getting Nosferatu, which he'll be back for sure too. Like if he keeps working with our boy as much as he is, he's like he'll be back as well. Nosferatu was some of those moonlight sequences were just like, whoa, like what did y'all do here? Like I'm still curious what the heck they were doing with some of that stuff in Nosferatu, but all really good things here. But The Brutalist shot on VistaVision again. That's a leap within itself. I think they really just killed it. I think The Brutalist will also walk away with the win here.
Certainly. Moving on, best film editing. We have Anora,
Oof.
The Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Perez, and Wicked. All
Ooh
five of
wee.
these movies are also Best Picture nominees. I would say likely these five nominees would probably be the top five favorite nominees in terms of
Mm-hmm.
Best Picture. I would argue Wicked per se, and probably sub that out for a complete unknown. But I think it's a pretty strong indicator that these five movies are probably in the upper half of the 10 Best
Yeah,
Picture nominees that we have this year. But yeah, this is a tough category. I think
it's hard.
if I had to pick three front runners, just throwing it out there, I think it's a tight race, but the three front runners feel like Anora, The Brutalist, and Conclave probably are the three
Mm-hmm.
front runners in this particular category. But yeah, man, what do you have? Where do you pick it for best film editing?
This is a really hard category because of course in the past, thinking about history, this has been like a baby best picture winner potential contender, right? Like sometimes if it gets best editing, it's very likely that it is gonna win best picture. And sometimes I also like to think about it like what film, like if you're not thinking about it like that, unfortunately the Academy Awards does think like that, and not necessarily always which film is legit the best edited. Because when I think about which film has the most editing, in a lot of ways I'm like, dang, Amelia Perez probably is the most edited right now. I don't know about the best edited, but the most editing probably is Amelia Perez. But man, it makes it so hard. But I think I really do think I'm going to go with Anora here. I do. I think it's such an interesting film. The way, you know, Sean Baker, he edits himself, which I think is crazy, but is I think it's Anora. I just do. I have a feeling that's the right way to go here. I think Conclave is really close second here. I think that's now. I don't know if it's a new conversation, but kind of following SAG, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, is Conclave going to take this award? I don't know, but I'm gonna go with Anora here. That's what my gut is telling me, and that's what I feel.
Yeah, it's really tight. And also another wrinkle for this is that the Editors Guild Awards have not taken place. They're not taking place until after the Oscars, which I don't know if historically that's been the case, to give us a little insight into this. And so we don't have a clear indicator from that particular precursor. So we have to look at other things like the BAFTAs to try to predict what this is going to look like. But it's a really, really tight one in this particular category. I'm going with Conclave. I think that Conclave is going to probably walk away with this award. It was between Conclave and Anora in terms of the favorites for me to pick. And I think if I had to pick a should win, it likely would be Anora if I had to pick a should win, but my will win is going to be Conclave. Because I do think that from a story perspective, Academy voters are probably going to lean in that respect to why they would favor Conclave over Anora, just because of how the editing really informs the story and the pacing and the flow of that movie. And
for sure,
how difficult it is to actually pull off a movie that is very chatty and very talky and still make it as entertaining as it is. I rewatched it before we started recording, and I'm like, this is a damn entertaining movie. Like, this movie
it's really good.
It's so good.
Fire, y'all.
Like, this gossip, this fucking chismoso is like some of the most entertaining shit you'll find, and it's just like it's men cardinals talking in rooms. Like, that's all it is. And so I don't know, it's something to be said about that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Conclave in this particular category. But I think either way, when you look at betting odds, like, it's really tight. You know,
it's one of them. Yeah, it's like 50-50
low key. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting winner who walks away with the best editing. Let's move on next category and do best production design. So in this category, we have The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. Again, another technical below the line category. Everybody fucking cooks here. My goodness, all of these movies, production design, like, just top notch, like world class production design on all of these movies. Like, I won't take anything away from anybody. Really, really incredible, talented stuff that we saw here from a production design standpoint. But as the winner of who will win, I'm going with Wicked. I think Wicked is the favorite also in this category for a number of reasons. Again, it's kind of a new world, pseudo new world that we haven't necessarily seen before in a modern context. Of course, like, we have Wizard of Oz and we have all this, you know, sort of other source material, but we haven't seen it updated in this current new modern day and age in this particular way. And it is somewhat different. It's not necessarily related to the historical interpretations of Oz that we've seen historically. And also just how much it informs the story as well. Like, it's a big pivotal point of the story in terms of how they're utilizing Oz and the school and all of that stuff. And so I think if I had to pick my should win for best production design, probably I would actually go with Nosferatu this year. Dune Part 2 would, you know, obviously be a favorite, but again, they already won that award, and I'm like, we've seen Dune. Like, it's not a ton that's new. Nosferatu's production design, top-notch grade A stuff. When you get to Castlevania, my goodness, it's like,
no, it's crazy.
We're somewhere else now. I don't know what the fuck is going on. But I think that they're probably going to go with Wicked. That is like a heavy popular movie this year, so that's the one I'm going to pick.
Yeah, so Wicked is also my winner here. And I still do have, I think, reservations about the look of Wicked itself, but when it comes to production design, some of that stuff is impressive, man. Watching them build the train, again, I wish it looked better because of color grading and other lighting things, but watching them build the train was crazy. Or the one scene where there's circles and windows, and I don't know, there's a lot of, I think, impressive sets they did have to build for Wicked. And I'm like, yeah, y'all really did that. That stuff is really good. What separates Dune Part 1 from Dune Part 2 for me is the worm ride is nuts. Like, having to build that and do that is pretty insane when you think of production design. I think that's crazy. And then the last thing I'll say, everything Nosferatu, I agree with you. The last thing I'll say is Conclave. You would have thought they was filming in the Sistine Chapel. You would have swore they was just in
Oh, in the
there
Vatican, yeah.
in the Vatican,
They were
just
there.
like
Can't tell me otherwise. They were
can't
there.
tell me otherwise. And so, very impressive production design in Conclave, man. I think they really killed it. But yeah, amazing across the board. But Wicked is also my pick here.
Got it. Makes all the sense. Moving on to best sound. So in this category, we have A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot is showing up here in this category as well. So best sound, also another below the line category. This is this is another interesting one to think about and take away from.
Yeah.
Again, this is a category that Dune won a few years ago, the original Dune film, and so it's also represented again here. But Complete Unknown, a lot of sound elements to that movie, of course, it being a biopic about Bob Dylan and that being a very intricate part to the story. Amelia Perez is also a musical. Wicked's also a musical. The Wild Robot, interestingly enough, I mean, from a sound perspective, it is kind of a technical achievement when you think about it. So all very, very deserving nominees here. But yeah, who do you have walking away? Best sound.
So my prediction is actually, I think they're going to give it to Dune. I do. I think they're going to say, "Hey, Dune, this is your last win of the night." I know, but no, I really do think they're going to give it to Dune Part 2. Part of me wishes they had separate sound. I think categories here, technical categories here. One wishes there was like best sound editing, and one that was best sound mixing. Because what's so interesting,
they used to. That's what they.
Yeah,
that's what it used to be.
That's what I mean. And so what's so interesting about that is because there's so everything else is music related. Wicked's a musical, Amelia Perez a musical, Complete Unknown musical-ish, not a musical, but you know what I mean, a music movie. I don't know. Sometimes I wish it's like, all right, let's give Dune Part 2. Let's say goes to best editing, and then maybe sound mixing goes to one of the other musicals. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. But yeah, I think Dune will take it. And yeah, I really think that's really it. I don't think anything else really has too much of a contention here.
I'm no sound expert, so them combining the categories I have no issue with because it must have been for a reason to take away the mixing and the editing categories a couple of years ago and just combine them. So that is what it is. But I think Dune Part 2 also has this. I don't think it's really a ton to say. There could be a come from behind win for. Actually, no, I don't think so. I think Dune Part 2 has this. I think it's pretty much a shoe, and I don't know if there's really a close second. If I'm being honest, like if I'm looking at all these nominees, I think Dune Part 2 has it in the bag.
I will say the only other thing that is impressive about Wicked that I learned about just behind the scenes, having to sing and get sound while actually flying, like a lot of that stuff. I remember we talked about they like recorded while they were filming and the way that worked.
Live singing on set. Yeah.
Some of that stuff is really impressive to be able to do, and I think they did it pretty decent. So that's the only other thing in my head. I'm like, oh, that was pretty hard to do when they pulled it off, but I definitely think it's going to do.
Yeah, the live singing on set is it's not traditionally done because that could be very risky. You got to have people they got to have pipes. They got to have really, really good vocals and to be able to multitask in all those different ways and be able to do that. So, yeah. Moving on to Best Original Song. So, in this category, we have El Mal from Amelia Perez, The Journey from the 6888, Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Mi Camino from Amelia Perez, and Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. So Amelia Perez is represented twice here. Diane Warren, who did the song for the 6888, this is her 16th Academy Award nomination in this category alone. She is a mainstay. She's here. The 6888 would probably never get nominated for any Oscars outside of this category, but here it is. But I think Amelia Perez for El Mal specifically has this one, I think, pretty locked up. It's not the best song of the movie per se, but it's the one that's getting the most attention and the most love. It's just kind of been the case. This is just kind of playing the house cards here of what's historically been true. Going with El Mal from Amelia Perez.
Yeah, I'm going with it as well. Like you said, not too much to say outside of that. It is the one getting the most buzz and getting the most, I think, attention and energy. I'm also go El Mal.
Moving on to Best Original Score. Actually, before I do that, before I do move on, did you hear about the performances, the lineup that they've announced for the Oscars?
Oh, what we got?
So they have confirmed that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande will be opening the Oscars.
W.
Sorry, we don't know what the song or the performance is going to be, but they are officially confirmed, even though like Cynthia had categorically denied it a few weeks ago. Probably they didn't have the contracts lined up and stuff, but now they will be opening the Oscars. And this is after the removal of the original song performances, which we found out about a few weeks ago. Because to be honest, I think there's a lot to be left desired in this category. Like this is not a strong year for
Hmm.
this original song category, and I have no desire to
Yeah.
see any of these perform live. Like literally no desire at all. So they're actually adding on new performances. Queen Latifah has been announced to perform on the show. We don't know what, we don't know with who and what song, but she's announced as a performer. Also another artist, I don't know who this is. Maybe I'm just old. Lisa from Blackpink. Somebody named Lisa from Blackpink is performing. Another artist
Mm.
called Ray is performing. Raye. So they have a
Yeah, I
few
know, right?
things lined up. So
Mhm.
it'll be somewhat different. Any thoughts on just like how that's going to look compared to what we've historically seen with the original song performances?
Yeah, it just feels a little different. We're bringing in some outside singers. Everything's not necessarily they made this film or they made this song in this film and now they have to perform it. Yeah, and so yeah, I'm interested to see how it shakes it up a little bit. Kind of bringing in some of that outside celebrity presence, kind of mixing and matching. Like you said, Ray is singing. It's like, oh, Ray is here. I know who Ray is. How do we get here? But yeah, we'll have to see how it turns out. But I think it's a good idea. Hopefully, it just turns out well.
Yeah. I don't know who that is, but hopefully they're good. I mean, I guess we could try anything and just like see what works out.
See what
Especially
works.
especially in lieu of these ratings declines, as they just struggle to get viewership. But let's keep moving and move on to best original score. So in this category, we have The Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. Who you got winning this category?
Best original score. Wait, where we at? Hold on.
Original score. We just did song.
Oh yeah.
So The
So
Brutalist,
yeah,
Conclave, Amelia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot.
best original score. I have The Brutalist as best original score. Man, I think it's, to be honest, I ain't gonna lie. This is one of them ones I think it's gonna win, and it's kind of my favorite. The Brutalist had a lot going on in it, and I think in order to get through a movie that long, the music also has to be good. But there's a lot of good swelling moments in The Brutalist where you're like, wow, that's a crazy moment, or this thing is insane, or there's sometimes there's moments where time is passing and there's the score behind it, and you're like, oh man, this is crazy. What's going on? And so I think The Brutalist, I think it just has the best score out of these. It definitely it's like the best 1-2 punch when it comes with the film and what it's trying to do. I think The Brutalist is going to win here. I like it a lot.
Yep, my favorite will win, should win. This is what I'm picking. The Brutalist as well. Love the score. Love how it fits in with
Very
the
good
themes of the
score.
movie. Dun, 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 dun. When that shit
Crazy.
blares on the screen, when it first
Yeah.
comes on, it's an amazing, amazing moment. So, yeah, I have nothing really else to add to there. I hope that they really walk away with this. What I will say though, the Brutalist shouldn't technically win. Another movie that should be here should be Challengers. Trent Reznor and
Yes.
Atticus Ross.
Oh.
That's just still like a ridiculous omission to not be nominated entirely. That should be the movie that
Yep.
should win this award this year. So that's just a short-sighted thing. To have a really really cool movie and a really cool moment take place at the show. But be that as it may, all things considered, I'm going to pick The Brutalist as well. Moving on to this is where things get sticky. We're getting into some of the short film, documentary
Yep.
categories. First and foremost, best animated short film. So in this category, the nominees are Beautiful Men, In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candles, Wander to Wonder, and Yuck. So, out of this category, I have seen one of these movies. Is that correct? Yes, I've seen one, and that's Wander to Wonder. That's the only one that I've seen, and that's my pick. Wander to Wonder is my pick. That's the only one I've seen. That's the only one I can really vouch for. So I'm just gonna pick the one that I've seen, the one that I'm familiar with. I've done a little bit of research on the other ones just to kind of see how things have played out for their success and the precursors, what their showings have been thus far. And I think there's probably a conversation about Beautiful Men also being very close to a front runner favorite in this category. So
Yeah.
that could be one that can come out on top, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Wander to Wonder as the winner in the best animated short film category.
Yeah, this is the first time in a while I haven't seen none of the animated short films. But Wander to Wonder is also my pick. Again, a lot of research trying to figure out what's going on. You spoke about Beautiful Men. I also seen some things about Yuck. I've seen some like, oh yeah, Yuck is also a little bit in the conversation, but I do think it is between Beautiful Men and Wander to Wonder. But yeah, Wander to Wonder is my pick. It is the one I'm hearing the most about, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll try to make sure as many of these as I can before Sunday.
Moving on to best live action short film. In this category, we have Alien, Anuja, I'm Not a Robot, The Last Ranger, and The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. Who do you have winning? Best live action short.
So I've seen two of these. I've seen Alien and I've seen I'm Not a Robot. Alien is my pick. I really think it's going to win. And to be honest, Alien's so good that I've been telling other people about it. It's just such an important, it's such an important story that I think people need to hear and to see. I think it's very pertinent to our times, who our president is right now, things that can happen, have happened, and will happen. Yeah, I've been telling people about it. I showed my mom, I showed my cousin. I'm like, y'all need to watch this. Like, this is kind of insane. It's really high intensity. I think it's really good. The only other thing I've seen kind of get a lot of buzz is Anuja, which I've been seeing a lot of good things about. I do want to check out Anuja, but right now Alien's my pick.
So in this category, I've seen Alien, I've seen Anuja, I've seen I'm Not a Robot. And also, I haven't seen this one, but the Man Who Cannot Remain Silent is also getting a lot of attention and has been at the front of some of the betting odds as well. This is actually a really, really tough category, and a category that, even though you might not have seen some of these films, historically it's been somewhat easier to predict. And man, I think in this category, I think I'm gonna go
It's
Alien as
hard.
well. I'm
It's
gonna go
hard.
Alien as well. I'm not very, very confident in that pick, though, to be honest. I
Mm-hmm.
think it still could go. It's kind of a three-way almost tie to me, I think, between Alien, Anuja, and the last one, the Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. I think those are the three favorites. What I'm really leaning on here for Alien is a lot of what you said, just very, very topical, very much a reactionary piece to the current times that we're living in. A lot of times with the Academy Awards and with a lot of these precursor shows, they are
Mm-hmm.
often in reaction to the political climate that we are living in, and the idea of displaced people, migrants, all of that stuff is just it's hot. It's such a hot button issue right now. I mean, fucking ICE is packing up people left and right on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's
Yep.
very, very heart-wrenching stuff. And Alien captures a lot of that in a really, really effective way. I think it's a solid movie. What's really having me hesitant is Anuja. It's a really heartwarming story, but also the star power behind it as well. Who's
Mm-hmm.
supporting this movie? Mindy Kaling is a producer.
That's big.
I
Yeah.
believe also the director of this short film also previously won a couple of years ago, so that pedigree is
Mm-hmm.
also there. And historically, Academy members, they look at the familiar names, like, oh, I know that person, I know them behind that
Mm-hmm.
project. But also Alien, Adam McKay is an executive producer of this short, so it does have
Yeah.
that working in its favor as well. So I'm going to go with Alien also in the best live action short category. Moving on to best documentary short film. In this category, we have Death by Numbers, I Am Ready Warden, Incident, Instruments of a Beating Heart, and The Only Girl in the Orchestra. So this one, I've seen three, two. I've seen two of these. I've seen I Am Ready
Mm-hmm.
Warden and Incident. Yes, I've seen those two. Oh no, I've seen The Only Girl in the Orchestra as well. So yes, I have seen three of these. And also, again, another one that's somewhat tough to predict. The top two for me, I think, in this category are Incident and I Am Ready Warden. Both
Mm-hmm.
tackling very political issues right now. I Am Ready Warden is about death penalty. Incident, very much about police brutality, a real incident, just documentary footage. But the pick that I'm going to go with is I Am Ready Warden. Now, to be honest,
Mm.
this is not a film that I'm a fan of. I didn't like the movie per se. I
Mm.
don't necessarily enjoy the final product of the story. It is based on a very true issue about a man who committed a murder, and he's on death row, and he's sort of in the last days of his life and sort of seeking repentance from the people that he committed his act against in particular. And so my should win is actually Incident, because that's just raw, unfiltered footage of police brutality and a police murder that happened in
Sheesh.
Chicago. Like, there's no commentary, there's no pulling punches. Like, it's just the incident itself, no pun intended. But I think for whatever reason, I Am Ready Warden, because it has a narrative thread and it's
Mm-hmm.
probably a little bit more palatable, I think that's the one that I'm going to ultimately pick in this category.
I see. Man, this is another one of those. I still got to catch up. I haven't seen any of these yet. That sounds crazy, though. By the way, like, what is going on in there? Jesus Christ. But from what I've seen and what I've gathered, I think my pick is going to be The Only Girl in the Orchestra. It does follow in celebrating the double bassist, who is Oren O'Brien, who is the first woman to become a full-time member of the New York Philharmonic. it looks like it's something that's up my alley. I haven't watched it yet, but it's some buzz I'm hearing about, and I remember seeing a shot that's like really beautiful. Like, wow, I think that thing is shot crazy. So yeah, I can't wait to check it out. But yeah, so far I think that is gonna be my prediction right now. Is the only girl in the orchestra. We'll have to see though.
I honestly think people might not like me saying this, but I think that
Mm-hmm.
they should do away with these categories in the main broadcast, like these short feature categories, best documentary,
Mm-hmm.
short, live action, short, and I don't think these should be a part of the main broadcast.
Yeah,
There's a
save
couple of
time.
reasons why, because one, most people haven't seen them. Most people don't know any of these
Mm-hmm.
projects at all whatsoever, so there's no
Mm-hmm.
familiarity. But more importantly for me, as I've watched these movies over the years, especially in the best documentary category and even best live action short, sometimes some of these subject matters just kind of feel exploitative and they don't feel genuine.
Mm,
They feel a little, I don't know. They just feel a little off to me. I've just
yeah.
noticed a lot of these documentary shorts, really specifically. I really do not like them because I don't like the
Mm-hmm.
angles that they're coming at them from. I don't think that they're necessarily sending good messages out there, or at
Mm-hmm.
least they're being very safe about whatever message they're trying to convey. They're actually not picking a side at all, which I think is
Yeah.
completely useless. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
just really wondering at the purpose of these, considering nobody knows this stuff, nobody watches these films. More than likely, they do educate to some extent. They can be useful and shine lights on things that probably aren't necessarily being highlighted in the feature film categories. But this is one of those things where I'm like, I think they might have run their course. In terms of
Mm.
just like being a part of the live broadcast.
Yeah, probably so. And part of me, again, there's so many categories and it's such a long night. Part of me almost wishes they did. I was just watching SAGs last night, right? And they're giving out like the Stun Award before the show actually starts, and like it'd be kind of cool if they did something like big on the red carpet, like, hey guys, this is what wins this is what wins that. But I think I kind of agree where it's like in the main broadcast, these are the moments where everyone's like, of course like have your moment and all of that, but a lot of people are not paying attention to these awards. If you want to get your ratings up, I'm sure a lot of people check out in the moment with a lot of these awards show up, so it makes sense to me.
And they tried that though, but there was an uproar. A lot of Academy members and just like the Hollywood film community was like, no, how dare you relegate us to the
Mm-hmm.
pre-show or pre-tape segment or whatever the case may be. And I understand that. Like I
Yeah, I
understand like
get it.
having that moment and being on the stage and not being relegated to an afterthought. But guys, we gotta grow and evolve. We gotta expand this. Like, unless the Academy Awards becomes 2 nights in the near future, which I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
see happening. They also have the Governor's Awards, which also hands out other things that I think happens, the night before the Academy Awards. Like, I think there's just other ways to go about it. We have to probably retain like that precious TV time for just the best of the best, the stuff that people are more than likely going to know and have some familiarity with heading into that night, because it is a really, really long night. Anyway, that aside, let's keep moving. Best documentary feature film. In this category, the nominees are Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane. What do you have winning best documentary feature film?
I have No Other Land currently winning best documentary feature film. I've been hearing nothing but good things about No Other Land. I still haven't seen it yet, but that seems to be where all the energy is headed this year. And we didn't talk about this during I think when nominations came out, but I just thought about it. I'm like, you remember? Did you? I think you seen Daughters on Netflix, that documentary.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good, and I was like, dang! I remember it made the short list, I think, for this year, but it didn't make it into the five. And I'm like, Daughters should have made it into the five. I think Daughters was a really good documentary, man. But yeah, that being said, I think Northern Land is my number one here. I've been hearing some other good things about Porcelain War, but from what I've been hearing, by far and by large, No Other Land I think is taking it here.
I'm picking No Other Land as well. That's a movie. It doesn't have any theatrical distribution in the United States. It's somewhat controversial. The thing is that it's a movie that's centering on Palestinian citizens,
Mhm.
excuse me, in Gaza. It's not specifically about the conflict and what's happening in Gaza, but it does center on people in that particular community and in that particular geographic region. And I don't know if people are trying to deal with that and really touch that stuff.
Mhm.
but I do think that if Academy members have seen it, they'll likely resonate with it because, again, it's just like a really hot button issue, very top of mind, very current. I agree. I would have loved to see Daughters make it into this at least top 5 nominees. I think, and I'm still just baffled at the fact that Superman, the Christopher Reeve story,
Oh yeah,
not here at
what?
all. That's
What
my
are we
favorite
doing?
documentary of 2024. It just won the BAFTA for best documentary, and it's not here at all. It didn't even make the short list. It didn't even make the short list. I
Like
think
what?
I think it's likely because of just the emotional connection that people have with Christopher Reeve. It's
Mm-hmm.
again, these categories, they historically over the past few years, like the past 6 or 7 or 8 years in particular, ever since post Oscar So White, they have been all about hot button social justice issues, which
Mm-hmm.
can be useful and can be good. But sometimes, guys, I just want like a basic, relatively familiar story.
Yeah.
And Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, is incredibly effective. It's an incredible documentary.
Mm-hmm.
It just has everything you can want, and I think it just reminds people about just the incredible actor and the human that he was, and the stuff that he had to deal with. And I just know a lot of people that loved it, and the fact that it got recognition at other precursors like the BAFTAs and won, but it didn't even make the short list is just like it's
Crazy.
baffling to me. So that's just one I don't understand. But I think again, it's reflective of just the current times and the current tastes and the particular interest of this modern academy, this new academy per se.
Mm-hmm.
But let's keep moving. Best international feature film. In this category, we have I'm Still Here from Brazil, The Girl with the Needle from Denmark, Amelia Perez from France, The Seed of the Sacred Fig from Germany, and Flow from Latvia. So in this one, I think it's a very close 2-movie race. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's Amelia Perez and I'm Still Here.
Yeah.
Both of those movies are, of course, nominated for Best Picture. So those being here, they have to just rise to the top as the favorites. And to be honest, with all of the controversy around Amelia Perez, it may have taken somewhat of a hit in the eyes of some Academy voters. I'm sure you can go out there and read those articles about the anonymous ballots. There's always different publications that publish those, like anonymous
Mm-hmm.
ballot voters who talk about
Mm-hmm.
why they vote for certain things. And I'm sure that there are stories out there of somebody saying like, yeah, the stuff that Carla Sofia Gascon has said, I can't rock with, so I'm not going to vote for that
Mm-hmm.
movie. But all that being said, I still think Amelia Perez is going to win this category because at the end of the day, we're not voting for the best person. We're voting for the best movie. Not saying that
Mm-hmm.
Amelia Perez is the best movie, but that is a movie that has 13 nominations at this Academy Awards. There's something to be
Yeah.
said about that. I don't know if it's going to win a ton of other things outside of what we'll talk about in a few short seconds here, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think that just historically what we've seen out of a lot of these precursors where it's been some of the momentum it's had in this particular category won the BAFTA. That's why I'm picking it for this one. I think Amelia Perez is going to be the best international feature winner.
I don't have too much to add to that. You hit everything right on the head. I agree with everything you said, 1,000,000,000%. Emilia Perez is also my pick here. Technically, me personally, I do like I'm Still Here better. I think that movie is crazy. I had a really good time watching I'm Still Here.
A good time.
Well, well,
I know not a good time in that sense. Like it was
it's an entertaining, enjoyable film with very hard concepts.
very
And
hard. Yes.
hard to watch, but still entertaining in that way. It's a crazy movie. But yeah, I think Amelia Perez is still my pick. It has been such a kind of a juggernaut in early of the award season, and I think in some ways they're rewarded for that. But also seeing some other voting bodies, I don't think everybody's 100% just like taking all the controversy in Amelia Perez and throwing it out of their heads and being like, Amelia Perez. I think some people will still vote on it in this category in particular. So I'm going with Amelia Perez.
And I don't how many Academy voters are really paying attention to that stuff?
Exactly.
We can't act like that a lot of the Academy, not all of it, they've made a lot of changes,
Mhm.
but a lot of the Academy is still the 60 or 70-year-old white man who's just watching
Yep.
movies and they're not paying attention to what Carla Sofia Gascon is tweeting. Like they don't
Mhm.
care.
Exactly.
And the fact that it did get 13 nominations does resonate, at least to a degree, in terms of what the Academy thinks should be conceived as an important movie. Again, I think Amelia Perez has a lot of drawbacks, some very problematic things a part of it, but that's their attempt to say like this is a movie that we feel like is important, that's trying to at least say some important things, and so we're rewarded for this. But I if I'm Still Here wins this particular category, I would not be shocked. I do think that
Mhm.
that Brazilian contingent is strong, very,
Let's
very
do it.
strong. Like it is
Mhm.
a active, loud contingent. It's a reason that that score is as high as it is on Letterbox. Those are Brazilian Letterbox users pumping that score up. So people are definitely like very much rallying for that movie, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it can come out on top. It's actually the favorite in the betting odds. If you look at current betting odds right now, it is the heavy favorite to
Mhm.
win that category. Moving on to best animated feature film. In this category, the nominees are Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. What you got winning? Best animated feature film.
I'm going with the Wild Robot. I am. One of my favorites of last year. Still haven't seen Flow, unfortunately. I'm gonna watch it here soon, but it's just my pick, man. I think the Academy likes it. I think they can rally behind it. Flow one and other places, they're gonna be like, oh, let's give it to Wild Robot. I think it's simple as that. But really, really good. Another set of nominees here. I mess with it, man. These are really good movies. Checked out Wallace and Gromit. We didn't. I don't think we talked about it yet, but man, what a crazy fun movie, Wallace and Gromit, dude. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Robert by here.
I'm going with Flow. I
Yeah.
think that heavy international favorite, a film from Latvia, heavy international presence in the Academy, underdog. I think Flow has a really really good shot here. I think this category is it's close. I don't think it's as,
Hmm.
as much of a sure in for the Wild Robot. If the Wild
Yeah.
Robot wins, won't be surprised at all. Really really terrific movie. Flow was my favorite animated movie of the past year. I've seen all of these films. I will shout out Memoir of a Snail. Very very dark film,
Oh, really?
very disturbing dark movie.
Oh,
Just
unexpected.
people are, yeah. I wouldn't have any expectations going into that movie because it will fucking subvert them. It is not what you think it is,
Believe
but
it.
it's an incredible film. These are all really really solid nominees, but I'm going with my just personal favorite, Flow. I think it will win, and I think it should win as well. Moving on, best original screenplay. So we're getting into the big categories here. In best original screenplay, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5, and The Substance. Original screenplay here. I'm picking Anora. Sean Baker. I think he's going to walk away with this win. Love the script. Love what Sean Baker did with the story. These are all pretty solid scripts for the most part. I think if I
Hmm.
had to pick a likely second favorite, surprisingly or somewhat unsurprisingly, A Real Pain from Jesse Eisenberg is a really,
I
really
agree.
terrific script. And he's gotten some love elsewhere. He did win the BAFTA, so he's gotten some love in some other places, and I love that for him. But I think I'm going to go Best Original Screenplay for Anora. They also did win the Writers Guild Award for this particular category as well. So I'm just going to keep it consistent, keep it with what the WGA did, and I'm going to say Anora wins Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah, that was one of my arguments as well, is that it picked up the WGA. I think it makes sense here, again, given the other nominees as well. We kind of talked about the substance isn't like the most screenplay type of film. There are other things in that film that make it great. But I think I also agree, if there was a second, it would be A Real Pain. Very much. Let me read the screenplay for A Real Pain, but I think Honora is going to take it here for sure.
Man, this is one of the interesting ones too because best adapted screenplay, the next
Mhm.
category also has very very tight race. I think across the particular contenders, the nominees for best adapted screenplay are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. And so things have been kind of all over the place. Sing Sing, or
Mhm.
excuse me, Nickel Boys actually did win the WGA award. Ramel Ross picked up that award. Conclave has been somewhat of a heavy favorite as well elsewhere. Won a Critics' Choice Award, won BAFTA, if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely a tight race, here in particular. And also, like these screenplay categories, what's been like interesting over the past few years has been some of the more creative choices that I think the Academy has taken with some of the winners in these categories. Like this is kind of the cool person's award to win. People
Mhm.
like Jordan Peele winning this award for Nope, or not Nope, for Get Out. He won for Get Out all those years ago. Even last year, American Fiction won a screenplay award. So they've historically been able to kind of deem some of those newcomers, some of those next generation auteurs, with this particular award before they maybe get contention for best director or even best picture. To get an adapted screenplay or an original screenplay nomination and win is definitely, I think, a sign of good things to come. But all that out the way, what do you have winning best adapted screenplay?
Yeah, this one is so interesting, and it was hard for me for a little bit because it can go any way. You kind of talk about, sometimes this can be the cool award, depending on who you want to give it to. I still have a feeling that they're going to run with Conclave here. I do. Just the way everything has gone down, I do have a feeling they're going to give it to Conclave. But man, if they gave it to Nickel Boys and Sing Sing, that's what I would want to happen. I really want one of those movies to get recognized somewhere in this award season, in this this year in the Academy Awards. Man, if Nickel Boys and Sing Sing won, I'd be like, let's go. I'd be pretty excited. But I just have this weird inkling that they're going to say, you know what, let's give it to Conclave. So right now, Conclave is my prediction.
Conclave is also my prediction. I think it's going to win Best Adapted Screenplay. To be honest, I don't really have strong feelings on who should win this award. This is one award where I'm except Emilia Perez. But if anybody else won, I'm very much okay with it. I'm fine if Conclave wins it. I'm fine if Sing Sing wins it. I'm fine if Nickel Boys can actually win it and keep that streak going for Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes. But I'm really not mad at anybody who walks away with this. The only one that would be glaring and just be a complete just what the fuck would be Emilia Perez, but the rest of these movies are really, really solid screenplays in particular. So I'd be fine with anybody walking away with it, but I'm also going to pick Conclave for Best Adapted Screenplay. Next, we have Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Here we have Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Zoe Saldana, Emilia Perez. She has just swept up almost everything up until this point, has been the heavy favorite pretty much all award season. And I think rightfully so. I think this is a great time for her to be acknowledged for just the work that she's done. She's been in the industry for 25 plus years now. And to be able to flex in this way and to take a role that's challenged her in ways that people historically haven't seen her as because she's done so many huge blockbusters. It's been great. And I think she's nailed every speech she's done. She just won the SAG Award, nailed that speech. It was probably the best speech that she's given thus far in this precursor race. And so I think it's all locked up in just like her crowning moment for her. And I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, I agree. Everything you just said, man. She's been such a mainstay in this industry for so long with these big blockbuster things, and then she goes and does something as audacious as Emilia Perez, which is very impressive outing for her and showing for her doing so much in that movie. But yeah, she swept every other precursor. I see it not going any other way here. Also, just thinking about like the Ariana Grande of things, she'll probably be back next year. You know what I'm saying? Like part 2 of Wicked is coming out this year.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Boy, no.
The big stuff was in this movie.
Honestly. Oh, was in this one.
The big stuff for Glinda was mostly in this movie. It's going to be heavily focused on Elphaba in the next one. It's possible. It's possible if it's a very, very weak year in supporting actress. But if we get some really good solid performances, I would to get nominated twice in the same category in 2 consecutive years.
That's true.
Really, really hard to believe.
Yeah, it would be difficult to pull off for sure. But yeah, Zoe Saldana is also my pick here.
Moving on, Best Supporting Actor. We have Yuri Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Who you got winning Best Supporting Actor?
Kieran Culkin. I don't think it's
shocker. Really?
Wow. Yeah, I really don't think it's close. We've been seeing some really cool things though out of I think the reception of Yuri Borisov has been really cool. A lot of people are like finding out like, oh my god, who is this guy? Oh, he's really cool. Oh, the Anora ensemble gets together, pretty nicely. And of course the amazing performance from Guy Pearce is just crazy. But yeah, Kieran Culkin, similar to Zoe Saldana, been cleaning up all award season. Very well deserved. And yeah, it was a good performance.
We've been seeing Kieran Culkin grace stages consecutively and consistently for like the past like 6 years. Just like every award show, every season, between Succession and now this, he's just like always been around and he's always winning. Like he's becoming so decorated in a very, very short amount of time, just based on 2 roles. I love what he did as SAG. He just kicked off the entire fucking vibe of the night. And every person that got on stage after him commented on the weight of the SAG Award.
The weight of the award.
He kicked all of that shit off and just set the tone for what the night was going to be. Did not take his speech seriously at all. I loved him for that. Like he was just himself riffing off the top of the dome. And I mean, he's incredible. He's great. This is deserve it. He's incredible in that movie, A Real Pain. Definitely one of the best performances of the year. Like when I saw it, I'm like, he has it, unless somebody just came out of nowhere and there was something that I wasn't considering. I just kind of knew at that moment when I saw the movie that he pretty much had it in the bag. Let's move on.
Uh-oh.
Next category, Best Actress, Best Leading Actress in a Leading Role. In this category, the nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. It's a tough category. Things are very
Sticky.
close between this and actor. Things are now very close, but even more so, I think in this category, things have become very, very
Yeah.
close over the past couple of weeks with the precursors. We just saw Demi Moore pick up the SAG Award. She also picked up a Golden Globe Award. She picked up Critics' Choice. But Mikey Madison is not to be slept on. Came back rallying with a lot of support. Walked away with the Independent Film Spirit Award. Walked away with the BAFTA Award. So a lot of momentum also in the way of Honora and Mikey Madison and what she brought to that particular movie as well. And so, for this one, between those two, because they are the two heavy favorites at this point, I think.
I know. This one is crazy. This one's crazy.
I am going to go with Demi Moore for The Substance.
Okay.
I'm picking Demi Moore for The Substance. I think that her story, her legacy in Hollywood, the speeches that she's given, the trajectory, the comeback nature of the performance, I think it's enough. I think it's enough to get her across the finish line. I do think it's going to be incredibly close between her and Mikey Madison. It's a very, very tight race, almost too close to call, which has been the case in the past couple of years. We saw the same thing last year with Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. I think this year I'm going to stick with Demi Moore. She's been my favorite for a while now, really after that Golden Globe speech where I just thought she fucking nailed it and just crushed it immediately. I thought it was over for Mikey Madison, but Mikey Madison came back rallying and has picked up a lot of stuff over the past couple of weeks. But I'm going to stay with Demi Moore as the winner for Best Actress.
Oh, man, what a race this is between Demi and Mikey, man. And Mikey, her potentially winning this award is also based off the BAFTA, and it's just really hard. I don't know what's about to happen. But I also have Demi Moore here. And I think it's everything you just said. And we've kind of seen in the past, one of those, like they'll be here later things as well. Like Michael will be back, kind of type thing. And Demi has the story. She has the longevity in Hollywood. Like, wow, is this her time? I think it might be. Maybe honestly, the SAG kind of convinced me a little bit. Like, wait, maybe this is it. Maybe before the SAGs, I might have leaned a little bit towards Mikey Madison for Honora, but I think Demi Moore just has so much momentum, and I think people are really gonna rally behind her, and I think she's gonna pick up the win. But if Mikey Madison wins, I wouldn't be that surprised either.
No, not at all. I mean, no, it's very close. It's very close.
It's so close.
She could absolutely win this, and she would be not the youngest, but one of the youngest winners of this award because she's only 25 years old. It would be an incredible achievement. They also we just got some news that another nominee in this category, Carla Sofia Gascon, will be attending the Oscars. She will be present. And Netflix is also paying for it. And, there's been a lot of the controversy, of course, because of the old tweets that resurfaced, and there were questions about whether or not she would appear. She has not been at the most recent precursors. She was not at the SAG Awards. She was not at Critics' Choice. She was not at the Independent Film Awards, largely because Netflix had temporarily severed ties and said, we're not paying for anything, no glam, no travel. It's too much of a sore issue. But the Oscars, it's different. Any thoughts on, how you feel about that? Just considering like everything that's happened. I mean, she's obviously no longer a favorite. It's very, very, very unlikely she would even win at this point. But any thoughts on just like her being present? Is she going to sit next to the Amelia Perez cast? Is she going to walk the carpet? Like, what does that whole thing look like? Because it's a prickly issue from a public relations standpoint, considering everything that's went down.
To be honest, I'm not even sure. In a lot of ways, it's a very bold, I think, decision to do as such, because you're just going to get so many eyeballs from everybody in the room when you walk in. Everybody's going to be like, whoa, she actually came. She actually showed up. And I'm really not sure. Part of me doesn't think she necessarily is like the brightest thing on the red carpet, but part of me does think she might decide to sit with the rest of the cast. I don't know. I'm really not sure. I'll have to see. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how it goes down and to see what that looks like. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's an interesting one.
I think the Netflix execs are going to hit up the Disney and Hulu execs and say, hey, don't put the camera over there. Keep the camera away. Do not don't linger. There's not going to be any joke about her in the monologue. Like, it's going to be all eyes off. Like, I don't think we'll see we may see a glimpse of her by accident. You know, she'll be
Because Zoe's there.
yeah, you know, she'll probably
Zoe's
be 3 or 4 seats down from Zoe, and so we'll see her at
there.
the end of the row or something. But I don't think we're getting any close-ups, reactions, none of that stuff. It's probably unlikely she walks the carpet. Like I don't
Yeah, I don't
why
think
put her in
so.
that position? Just avoid press entirely. It just doesn't really make
Mhm.
sense. I think she should be there. I mean, again, at the end of the day, like we're not voting on the best person. This is not
That's
what this
true.
is fucking about. This is not a Pulitzer Prize. Like it's about the
Mhm.
performance, and you know, I think she probably paid a good penance so far, with not being at these other precursors and not being able to celebrate. This is really the last big one, so I don't have a personal problem with it, but I would shy away from any sort of spotlight if at all possible once she does arrive on the red carpet and at the show. Moving on, Best Actor in a Leading Role. The nominees are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. This has also become a very, very close two-person race between Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet has rallied from behind like a
Man.
motherfucker that he is
Oh
and
my
just
god.
won the SAG Award this past weekend.
What?
And by the way, fucking I love his speech and
Yep.
what he did.
Yep.
He
10 out of
got up
10.
there and just made it be known. I'm trying to be one of the best. I want to be one of the greats. And I think historically, us as millennials, he is a millennial. He's like on the cusp, but us as millennials, we're taught to, you know, be humble, dim your light. Don't be
Mhm.
too arrogant. Don't say too much. You're still young. You got a long way to go. And no, Timmy, he brought that real New York shit and was like, no, I just want to let y'all know
Mhm.
respectfully, I'm coming for this. I want this. And this isn't necessarily an indicator of that, but this is a closer step for me to get to being one of those greats. I want to be Michael Jordan. I want to be Daniel Day-Lewis and Viola Davis and Leonardo DiCaprio. He name checked the greats. And I just
He
love that he
did.
did that. And his whole campaign trail has been incredible. The SNL stuff, all the performances, the college game day. He's
Mhm.
been running the playbook crazily and just been doing a really, really incredible job. And Adrian Brody, mainstay. This is the second time he's really run this circuit and has done a lot and has been very, very successful. Previously, he was the youngest Academy Award winner in this category for The Pianist. He's back in contention now as another front runner and has done really, really well. But I think Timothy Chalamet did upset him in the SAG category this past Saturday. But yeah, all that aside, it's another close race. Who do you got walking away with Best Actor?
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Like you said, Timothy Chalamet came from the depths, man. But I think I'm gonna still go with Adrian Brody here. I think they're still gonna give it to Adrian Brody at the end of the day. I think I love that the Timothy Chalamet, like you said, has just been on this amazing run of honestly people just learning who he is or him showing his personality and what he can do. And I loved everything about the speech he gave. Like you said, he said, "I'm chasing the greats." I thought I loved it tonight. I became like a bigger Timothy Chalamet fan after that. I'm like, yeah, bro, go get it because he's been cooking recently. Man, he does a good job of Complete Unknown. We're not gonna pretend like he wasn't in Dune this year, leading the whole movie in Dune. Wonka was successful commercially. I mean, he's been cooking. So I love that he was able to be like, yeah, I'm coming for the top. You know what I'm saying? And that award, him winning that SAG is marking he's trying to mark his territory for the future and being one of the greats. So I'm excited to see what he does, man. But I still think they're going to give it to Adrian Brody. Something it's just an inkling within me. Like the SAG is a little different, of course, from the Academy Award body. Of course, some of the same members, but I think Adrian Brody will still turn it out here at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, SAG is 100,000 voting members
It's
compared
a
to the
lot of
Academy, which is a
people.
lot smaller. I'm picking Adrian Brody as well for The Brutalist. I think he will walk away with the Academy Award. But man, Timothy Chalamet, he's been on the run of a lifetime. What he's doing is really, really special. It's almost unconventional, unlike things that we've seen before from previous sort of movie star playbooks. And it's hard for him because the idea and the concept of a movie star, it's dying, if not dead
Mm-hmm.
already. And he's had to create something new. And he easily could have just been shoehorned in the art house sort of style movie that he had been doing, things like Call Me by Your Name and Lady Bird and Little Women. But then he takes on movies like Dune and Dune Part 2 and Wonka, which are IP, but they're not Marvel, they're not DC. They're not these commercial properties that he actually couldn't take credit for bringing a lot of visibility and eyeballs to. And I think the
Mm,
argument with a lot of those other franchises like a Marvel property or something of that nature, nobody's showing up for a Captain America movie for Anthony Mackie or nobody was showing up for it for
Mm,
Chris Evans. They're showing up for
yeah,
it because it's Marvel, because it's Captain
exactly.
America. Timothy Chalamet can make an argument that people probably showed up a little bit in respect for him to see Dune. Same thing with
Yeah.
Zendaya, same thing with Florence
Hmm.
Pugh and Austin Butler. Like they draw a lot of attention to those roles, and I think that certainly was the case with Wonka. I think a lot of people wanted to see
Yeah, for
the
sure.
talent of Timothy Chalamet
Hmm.
well before we saw what he did in A Complete Unknown. And that's really the reason I wanted to see A Complete Unknown, because he committed 5.5 years of his life to learn all these different instruments and to sing and all of that stuff. Really,
That's a
really
lot.
committed performance. And so I just love the trajectory he's on. It's unlike anything else we've seen. I love that he's listening to Leo, following that advice to a T. It's great. But I do think Adrian Brody's going to win this. It's just one of those things where Timmy will be back here many, many
Yep.
times. He's already
Hmm.
been in 7 movies that have been nominated for Best Picture. That
Insane.
already tells you what you need to know about the trajectory of Timothy Chalamet. As long as he stays off the coke and stays clean, he'll be completely good, and I think he'll be on his way for sure. But Adrian Brody feels like the person that's going to walk away with the trophy for Best Actor. Moving on, last 2 categories we have. First and foremost, Best Director. The nominees here are Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Coralie Farge for The Substance, and James Mangold for Complete Unknown. Great field of nominees here. Great list
Yeah.
of people. Very, very talented performances and directorial performances from everybody here. I'm picking Sean Baker for Nora. The guy just won the DGA award, getting that crowning achievement for just
Hmm.
an incredible career and a body of work that he's put together. He's been working for the better part of 25 plus years now. Anora really is his crowning jewel, his crowning achievement of just everything that's come before to shape him into the filmmaker that he's in. He's just put out so many tremendous works, movies like Takeout, movies like The Prince of Broadway, all the way until the more recent stuff like Red Rocket and The Florida
Hmm.
Project. And now, of course, Anora, just like delivering really, really, really great movies time and time again. And I think Anora might be his best. It's right up there with the Florida Project for me, but Anora represents
Hmm.
everything that's made him who the filmmaker he is. And I think the Academy and the Directors Guild and all these different precursor bodies are acknowledging that. He's been a journeyman. He's been, really a champion of independent filmmaking, more than a lot of his contemporaries. And he's been here. He's been around for just a long, long time. And
Yeah.
now on his 8th feature film, just everything he was able to coalesce together for Anora, I think it's his time.
Yeah, I mean, you said everything about Sean Baker, which is why he is also my pick. And I think, on the flip side, thinking about Brady, who I think would be like a number 2 here. I think Brady Corbet is not as tenured. You know what I mean? Like he will. Some people just figure out who Brady Corbet was 6 months ago. You know what I'm saying? When the Brutalist tour kind of started. And so I think, and Brady Corbet hasn't had time to kind of be as personable as Sean Baker has been here recently. Like you said, Sean Baker has been here. He's kind of had his time. He's been amazing in the independent film world. People are learning and knowing his movies. People know that name when they hear it. And Brady Corbet is kind of new. Maybe down the line on movie 8 or movie 9, when people know who Brady Corbet is, maybe it will be his time down there. But I think right now, with these nominees, with the energy behind Anora, I think Sean Baker is it, and I think he's going to take away the win here.
If Brady Corbet can make another movie on the level of The Brutalist, that'll be saying something quite a lot. Even though
Yeah,
historically
man.
the Academy, I mean, it could be a much lesser movie and he'll get nominated for, which I think it's fine because we've seen that happen time and time again. He's a talented filmmaker who does seem like somebody who'll stick around and be able to churn out some really, really, really well known, meaningful stuff. But yeah, that Sean Baker man, he's just a really, really, really phenomenal filmmaker, and so I hope and I think that he will win. And I think he's actually kind of the deserved winner in this category when I really, really think about the holistic picture as well.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Best Picture, the biggest award of the night, the main event. 10 nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. It's it's a really competitive field this year.
Yeah.
There are a number of picks, at least 3 or 4 picks
I
that are
Yeah.
solid, very, very solid contenders. And to be honest, before this weekend, I thought I might have been sure about something, but once again,
Hmm.
things get sort of pulled out from underneath you, and you have to reconsider and recontextualize and rethink about this. And it's also just important to point out, this is the category with the ranked choice preferential voting. This is the only category that has that, where Academy members, they rank in order of preference which movie they think is the best to the least best from 1 to 10. So every movie is considered technically in the calculations of who wins this award, which has an adverse effect on who can come out and win this particular award on this night. It's not somebody just writing in one particular nominee. Everything is considered and taken into account. So, yeah, man. With all of that out the way, what do you have? Best Picture winner at the 97th Academy Awards.
Drum roll, please. No, I'm just playing. Man, I what a race, man. What a race. It has becoming increasingly close. I've in my head even narrowed it down to two after yesterday. I'm like, I think it's either Anora or Conclave at this point. I really do. Of course, I think the Brutalist is still in the conversation somewhat, but the voting bodies across the other precursors in a lot of other ways, they don't seem to like the Brutalist as much as they like Anora and Conclave. And so I'm really sticking to those top two as my those top two guns there. But I think it's funny because you have Conclave's film editing and I have Anora's film editing. Part of me feels like whichever one wins editing might low-key win Best Picture. But I think I'm gonna go Anora here, man. I am. I'm gonna pick Anora. It's what I want to win out of these. At least right now, even though I do really love the Brutalist actually, but I think Anora will win this the Best Picture. I said it a couple weeks ago. It's just something about getting the wins that it got, picking up BAFTA. Conclave scared me yesterday with the SAG, picking up stuff like what was it, Ensemble? I think it was Ensemble. It won, and it's just like, whoa, what is going on with Conclave? It's kind of blowing up. But yeah, I think Anora is it, man. I think if you go across the board, Anora wins screenplay, Anora wins director. I can definitely see it winning Best Picture, and definitely possible it walks away with actress as well. And I think it would make sense if it did. So I'm going with Anora, man.
With your picks, you would have Sean Baker making history. You would have him winning Best Picture as a producer, Best Director as a director, of course, screenwriter, and then Best Editing. That would make him the only person to win 4 Academy Awards for one film in a single night. So with your picks, he would win that and be making history, which would be incredible. That would be an amazing story if he's able to pull that out. It's really tough. I will say about the SAGs, Best Ensemble, that really has no bearing, I think, on Academy voting and Best Picture winner. Like that is, I mean, film. Not to disparage the movie at all, but Black Panther won that award back in 2019. True.
Very true.
It's something that can be conflated. But that being said, even with that considered, I'm picking Conclave. I think Conclave is going to be the Best Picture winner. It's not my should win. My should win is The Brutalist, honestly. That's my favorite movie of the year, but I think The Brutalist is probably number 3 in terms of the likelihood, in terms of what it'll win. It could still do it, though. I think The Brutalist still has a shot. I can't say I would be surprised if The Brutalist were to walk away with it. I do think it comes down more closely to Anora and Conclave, but based on the BAFTAs, that's really strong to me. That BAFTA award winning the outstanding film at that particular award. And just, again, the preferential ballot for Best Picture is just so important. Conclave feels like a movie that'll get a lot of 2s and 3s. Might not get a ton of 1s, but sometimes all you need is a bunch of 2s and 3s. Whereas Anora, I think there's going to be quite a few 1s. People love that movie. People love Mikey Madison. They're big fans of Sean Baker. But I still feel like that there's going to be a contingent with the whole sex work shit and just the explicit nature of it that just might be a little bit more reserved about that movie and might not rank it as high. They won't disparage it and say it's terrible, but I don't know if they'll put it as their number 1 or 2. It might be closer to 5 or 6. There's a lot of fans of Wicked. There's people that'll, probably slot The Brutalist a little bit higher. Substance Hive might come into play and be a little bit higher than Anora for some people. I think you add all of that up, you create this weird calculation that fucking PricewaterhouseCoopers does, and all of a sudden you get the Best Picture winner, which, whoever gets named and read off on Sunday, my mouth is probably going to be on the floor because I'll be shocked at anybody winning.
Regardless.
I'll be like, damn, Anora won, damn, Conclave won, damn, The Brutalist won. Like, whoever wins, I'm going to kind of be shocked regardless, but I'm picking Conclave at this point. It just feels like the movie that, based on the precursors and just based on the type of film that it is, just a reliable movie. And if it wins Best Picture, nobody's going to be mad about it. Nobody's going to be like,
nobody.
Fuck that movie. That was no, even people that are not even big movie heads or cinephiles or not, not really in bed with this community, even people who've seen it like the movie, and so I don't think it's going to cause necessarily a ton of uproar if it were to win. But, your pick of Anora, also very close as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all how it all shapes up this coming Sunday. Any last thoughts on the Academy Awards before we close out this conversation and as we get to the 97th Oscars when they go down this Sunday?
Nah, just again, another interesting year. I love how a lot of these big awards could go any other way. We Best Actress is still a toss up. Best Picture is still a toss up. In a lot of different ways. There's just a lot of questions still coming into this year's Academy Awards, and I'm excited to see how it goes down. I think of course, last year everybody was Oppenheimer, but I kind of like this year. It's not as much strength in one film. It's kind of cool to see how it shakes out. So I'm just excited to see what happens, and hopefully we can do something interesting come award night. I really sometimes I'm like, man, I hope they throw me off of something. Usually I want my predictions to be as close as possible just to brag a little bit, but part of me is like, heck no, somebody throw a wrench in the game, and there's definitely probably going to be one somewhere. But yeah, I'm excited.
Give me 3 out of 23. If everything was wrong, I'd be happy. I'd be like, you know what?
I'd be like, let's go.
That's amazing because I couldn't see anything coming. Right now we have most picks are the same except in 3 categories. The 3 differences are best animated feature film, best documentary short, and best editing. And the best editing one, as you pointed out, that's the one where we are aligning our best editing picks with the best picture winner picks, which does sometimes happen, but it doesn't always happen. It's
not
one
always
of those things that can kind of be a toss up just depending on the competition and again that preferential ballot. But this coming Sunday, going to be an interesting telecast. I wonder how good or how bad it's going to be just as a production. I don't think it's going to be as good as last year. Last year was a great Oscars.
A good year.
It was a really good Oscars last year. They kind of nailed almost everything. I don't think we're going to get that this year. It's probably going to be some stumbles, but it's probably going to be better than SAG. SAGs was a hot mess. That production, they clearly did not fucking rehearse a thing, and I was just
nobody knew what to say.
Nobody knew
standing in the wrong place. Yeah,
it was a mess. Nobody knew anything, and
crazy.
I'm like, this is why we rehearse, guys. You need to come and rehearse earlier. They absolutely rehearsed the Oscars. There's no way people are going to get on stage and not know their cues and know where the teleprompter is because that was just ridiculous. And I don't remember it being that way last year. I felt like it was a little tighter at the SAG Awards last year. So maybe things got thrown off because of the wildfires or timing. I don't know, but be that as it may, the Oscars is coming Sunday. It's going to be very, very interesting. But folks, with all of that said, those are all of our predictions for the 97th Academy Awards. If you have thoughts and reactions to our predictions, hit us up and let us know what you think.